You're watching GTV Breakfast, and I'm looking through a book here, and on the cover it says, "A Practical Read, Great Manual for Persons Who Seek a Turnaround from Chronic Relapsing Conditions, Characterized by Compulsive Drug and Alcohol-Seeking Behaviors Due to Brain Changes that Impair Self-Control." That's from the Chief Executive of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Pinaman Apo. And Mr. Bendoche Malo, who was on this show, says John Asoggonde's true story will shock, surprise, and stun many people. His accounts take you into certain circles in Accra and Ghana that you never thought existed. So that's Mr. Bendoche Malo, Chief Editor, UN News. The book I have in my hand is Unchained, Embracing Purpose Beyond Addiction. And the person on the cover of this book is sitting to my left. Sitting to my left is John Asoggonde. It's the second time he's been on this show. Yes. And John, you're welcome.
Good morning, Kavi.
Good morning.
Thank
Congratulations
so
on this book.
Thank you.
So this is your story.
Yes, it is.
What areas of Accra and Ghana do I not even think existed that Mr. Ben Dachumale was talking about? I mean, tell us your story briefly, where you went from and where you are now. And just like in a couple of minutes.
So I think the book is very raw. I lay out everything there, and I believe that's why Mr. Ben Malo thought, I could take you into certain circles he didn't know existed. But basically, my life, there was a point in my life when I was addicted to drugs, alcohol, and this lifestyle, I think, became very severe when I was working in the entertainment space. And so I was involved with the nightclub, a record label, and had access to a lot of parties and a lot of, sports in Accra. And the culture, the nightlife culture in Accra, and even I think across the world, is such that there's a heavy use of drugs and alcohol. And so I talk about that story because I feel like a lot of young people are enticed by such things, especially through social media and through the celebrities we have. They see them living this lavish life and they want to live it. But behind the scenes, there are a lot of things that go on that are not really, helpful to young people. And so that's the story I tell, and also just to pose it with how, by God's grace, I was able to come out from that lifestyle and turn my life around to now embrace my purpose.
So you're a preacher's kid. And a lot of people think, preachers' children are immune from the storms of life. You prove them otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's not like that. A lot of you realize that, on the contrary, a lot of preachers' kids rather, fall into certain vices that, you wouldn't imagine they would fall into.
Why do you think that is so?
Because I believe relationship with Christ is a personal, journey. Your dad can be a bishop, but if you don't have a personal relationship with God, you're not saved. And unfortunately, a lot of preachers' kids do not realize this, at their tender age. They just feel like because my dad is a pastor, probably I'm also a Christian. And unfortunately, if you have that mindset, you can easily be, swayed away by the enticements of the world.
You were interested in politics.
Yeah.
And women. Let's talk about politics first. J.J. Rawlings.
Yeah, J.J. Rawlings, God bless his soul. He inspired me at the very young age of 6. I saw the man in my small community where I grew up, and the hope and the charisma and everything he brought to the community that day just inspired me to become like him.
Describe that day. Where was that?
So this was in KJB. It's in the OT region now, and this town was very small, quiet, dull. One day we hear that the president was coming to visit. This was in the year 2000, and I was just 6 years old. But all of a sudden, everybody became so happy, jubilant. And I was like, okay, I want to go and see who this man is. What about him is making people so happy? And then I went to the park. I saw him standing on the podium. And, when he was just speaking, just the aura, the charisma, the joy in people's faces, the hope he brought to the community, it just made me realize, I want to become like that man. I want to become, someone wherever I go, just by my words, people can feel encouraged and people can have hope. And so that's where the inspiration came to be president.
What was it like to be suspended from school?
Devastating. Unfortunately, I fell into some of these habits that led down there, and I was sacked. My parents, of course, were very disappointed, and it was a big blow. But it was crazy.
And was that like the beginning of the spiral into the things that you got addicted to?
Yeah, that was the beginning, because I was sacked from school not even because of drugs. I was sacked from school because I went for a fanfare in Krobo Girls without exit. And
All the way from KGB?
All the way from KGB.
How long is it? That's a long trip, man.
I know. I actually came to Accra first, then I went to Krobo, then I came back to Accra. So like over a week, I was not in school.
What?
And by the time I got back, the headmaster found out that, this guy, I was not alone, we're a group of guys, we're not around. So we were sacked.
All of you?
All of us.
How many of you were there?
We're actually 2 that were sacked because the rest of the guys managed to beat the roll call. So yeah, the 2 of us were sacked and it was devastating. But it didn't really change. It should have changed something, but it didn't, because by God's grace, I got admission to the university without actually finishing my secondary school education.
How did that?
I wrote the private exam. I wrote the NOVDEC. Okay. I was actually in Form 3. We were supposed to do 4 years. So I wrote it in Form 3 and I passed and got admission. So by the time I made to graduate from secondary school, I was already in university. And in the university, instead of me, turning around, that's where I even became more notorious. That's where the drugs came in, marijuana, tramadol, all of that. And it just kept going, even throughout my days in university, I was smoking.
The guy you were sacked with, are you in touch with him?
Yes, actually I am.
Is he doing well?
Not really, but he's coming along.
He also got involved in drugs?
Yeah, actually, I think he's still involved in drugs, and I've been talking to him. He's tired. Like, he tells me, Charlie, I'm tired. And you can imagine if we've been doing this was around 2012, so you can imagine how many years, and he's still stuck there. But that's part of the reason why I do what I do. I like to share my story because it encourages people to know that if I can come out, then they can also come out. And also I give practical steps of how I was able to do it so that they can also learn from it and do it.
Do you sometimes look at him and think, wow, that could have been me?
Not just him, a whole lot of friends, especially even in the university. There were friends I was smoking with in the university whose lives have just been destroyed. Some of them are dead, actually. Some of them just gone, some of them in prison. And it's very sad, seeing people that were your peers who also had a bright future, because we're all very bright, young, brilliant children. And unfortunately, this is what has happened. But I thank God for my life, and I pray a lot for all of them, that one day they may also be able to come out.
Can you remember the first time you were tempted to do drugs?
It started with alcohol. Alcohol is actually a drug as well. So it started with alcohol. And the first time it was just a casual party. I didn't even like the taste because it's bitter, but I like the feeling. It makes you feel cool. You think you can, get away with things. So it started with that. Then cigarettes came in. And cigarettes too was just for fun. You're blowing the circles in the air and you just feel cool. Then when marijuana came in, marijuana was different, because marijuana now, it gave me a certain feeling that I liked. I liked very much. At the point, it made me eat well. It made me stress a little bit less. So, those enticing things when you start smoking marijuana, I feel made me become addicted, because now I had to depend on it to feel that satisfaction or to feel that, comfort I had. And unfortunately, I became addicted to it.
What kind of places did you end up seeing yourself and going to fuel your addiction?
Everywhere. But with me, also because I was working in the entertainment industry, it was quite easy for me to afford the lifestyle, because as I mentioned, we had a nightclub. And so if I go to the nightclub, I don't even need to buy alcohol. I didn't need to buy weed. I mean, the bouncers around probably had some. So it was quite easy for me to afford that lifestyle. But it took me into crazy. Some of the decisions I made, sleeping around with multiple women, just living a crazy drive. I'll be drunk and driving. Had accidents. I crashed my car, crashed my friends' cars. Like, so many crazy things that could have just taken my life away. But God preserved me, and I'm here today.
What was the lowest point?
The lowest point was misery. I got to this point where nothing was bringing satisfaction anymore. I could smoke all I wanted. I could drink all I wanted. But I just felt very empty and miserable. And in that situation, that's where I found the light. I chanced on a message by Dr. Mensa Otabil, and he wasn't even talking about drinking or smoking. He was just talking about stepping out of your prison. He talked about how Peter was stuck in prison, and God sent an angel to tell him to get up, to put on his clothes, and to walk out of the prison himself. And so I realized that if my life was going to be any better, I had to walk out of that prison I found myself, that miserable situation I found myself in. And so over time, I kept listening to him, and over a period of time, I realized that, I had to part ways with some of these things because that was the source of my misery. And by God's grace, I was able to say no to all of them.
We'll talk about how you got out, but even before then, did you ever see inside of any of the counterbacks, jail, prison?
Luckily, I didn't. Like I mentioned earlier, most of my friends ended up, I even in prison now. But I was able to get away with it. I believe it's because I look innocent, even till now, and back then I would always be wearing my suits. I loved wearing suits then, so I would have weed in my suit pocket, and the police wouldn't even suspect to check
Police
me.
never babbed you?
One time a police actually caught me, and I had weed right there in my armrest, and I was so scared, but he didn't even stop me for weed. He was just stopping me for a license or something else like that, and he let me go. And that day I was scared because I went to Aveno. I had just bought the weed, and usually when I buy it, I stuck it in my boxes or something. But that day, I don't know, I just left it in my armrest.
Yeah, okay.
Because Aveno, I was in North Kaneshi, so Aveno to North Kaneshi was just like a 5 minutes drive, so I didn't even bother to. And just then, when I just made the curve to enter North Kaneshi, the police was there. He stopped me. I thought it was the end, but he didn't even check.
Now you did sweat.
Charlie, I was hot.
Go ahead. And the guy knows anything.
He didn't check. He didn't check. But like I said, it's because probably I looked innocent and the way I carried myself, they didn't suspect. And that's another thing we need to look at, because you see a lot of people in society that look, probably adjusted individuals, but they're into drugs. And you would never suspect until you get into the closet. So
how about women? I mean, girls also are involved.
A lot. It will shock you the number of girls that smoke. It's crazy. And these days, marijuana is so normalized that people just do it. They don't even care about the consequences. They don't try to hide it. And it's become so ingrained in the culture that you'd find ladies comfortably doing it and not giving it.
When was your family in all of this? When you were really low, who did they know? Did your parents know?
My parents didn't know.
You kept it away from them for how long?
For about 3 years.
Okay.
And then I was still in school, actually. I was still in the university. So I think I was in my level 300 when they found out that I was doing this. And of course, they were disappointed. My mom was, so heartbroken. She would always cry and beg me to stop. But I just couldn't find the strength to, And I believe their prayers is what kept me. Because some of those accidents I had, some of the reckless things I was doing could have just, taken my life away. But they were prayerful. They were loving. They never said, "Oh, we have disowned you," or nothing like that.
How about your siblings, man? They don't know?
Well, after my parents knew, I think some of them also found out. But that's the thing. It destroyed my relationship with my siblings. For about 7 years, I didn't even have any close relationship with them, and I lost those years because I didn't see some of my younger brother, for instance. I didn't really get to connect with him when he was growing up, and you can never replace that. My sisters, but now we are very good. Right now we are very, very good. But I lost those years.
All those years.
And, yeah.
How did you get out of addiction?
Yeah. So I got out by the grace of God. It's all God's grace. I can give credit to myself, but I had to make certain choices. I had to make certain changes.
But were you thinking straight?
I wasn't. That's another thing about marijuana, especially. It distorts your memory. The paranoia sets in, hallucination, and so at the depths of my addiction, I don't think I was thinking very straight.
You were hallucinating?
I was hallucinating.
What were you seeing and smelling and hearing?
I could be in a conversation with somebody and they can even ask me, "How are you?" And I would feel attacked. Like, how? I'll access the how, I'll access the R, I'll access the U.
You break things down.
They are trying to get me, or they are plotting something against me. Like, I don't know. And it's crazy. And it's so vivid that you can't help it. You actually think people are plotting things against you. And nobody's even thinking about you.
Were you seeing things that were not there?
I believe I was seeing a lot of, especially when I go into crowded spaces, I would hallucinate and see all sorts of crazy things, and I'll just have to, go back home.
Like what crazy things, like what?
Right, I can't even think of it right now because it's been 6 years since I quit. But I remember a lot back then when I go to the malls, especially. I would just be so scared, and I would have to go back home. And the nightclub was my safe space because in the nightclub everybody's just smoking, drinking. So you find me in the nightclub every day, from Wednesdays to Sundays. Yeah, Monday and Tuesday is the only day I don't go to the club.
Were you praying?
I wasn't because, like I said, even though my dad was a pastor, I didn't develop a personal relationship with God growing up. And so if I'd pray probably once a year on the 31st December, I go to church and pray. That was just it. You know, I didn't have that personal relationship with God. But again, it was God that was, you know, able to take me out of this.
So you took the decision to do what?
So the decision came after a few months. I started listening to Dr. Mensa Otabil when he sowed the seed of, you know, taking the conscious step to step out of any situation you found yourself in. But there's this tragic thing that happened that really pushed me. So there was this guy I was following on social media. He had it all. He was flying private jets. He was driving the luxurious cars. And I wanted to be like him because that was the life I wanted to live. But one day I go on social media and I hear this guy jumped from his penthouse in Miami and he killed himself. You know, and that was where the verse hits me. What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? So immediately I just realized, you know, I can't keep on doing this because I may end up like that. You're in this miserable life. Nothing is bringing you joy. So you better find a way out. And so I went on my knees in my room and I gave my life to Christ. And immediately after that, I decided to go on a fast. I said I was going to do a 21-day fast. Because bear in mind, I've been listening to Dr. Mensa Otabil and Dr. Miles Muro by this time. And so they made me understood how fasting could also help you break out of certain things. But during that fasting, something also happened that really enforced my faith. So, well, I think the second day of my fast, there was a party in the office. I was still working in the company, so there was a party in the office. And when they brought the buffet, I saw the food. I forgot I was even fasting. So I picked a plate, I served myself. And then when I picked the first bite, I realized, oh,
you break the fast.
And I felt terrible. I thought, Charlie, how could you? Born again just 2 days and you failed. So it means this thing won't work out. You know, but something just urged me to pick my Bible. Then I went to the index page, I was looking through it, and I chanced on Psalm 130, verse 3.
In the party?
I actually left the party.
Okay.
And we had offices, so I went to, and by that day, that same day, when people were still partying, I saw Psalm 130, verse 3. If you, O Lord, shall count iniquities, no man can stand. And so I was reassured of God's love. I realized that taking a bite during the fast, God was not going to condemn me because of that. But you see, what that did was that it made me realize that if I felt that guilty and, you know, broken just because I took a bite of food in my fast, then the next time I took a puff of weed or a sip of alcohol or any of those things, I will feel even much worse. You know, so it just gave me the strength. And since then, it's been 6 years.
6 years free?
6 years free.
Wow.
Not a single relapse, not a single, 6 years free.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't think it was an easy job.
It wasn't easy.
What did you have to
sacrifices?
Separate yourself from?
A lot of sacrifices. Less than a month after that, I had to leave my job behind. Because, you know, the entertainment industry is such that some of these things are so normalized and it's right there in your face. And so I had to leave the company I was working for. This company was providing me accommodation, salary, everything I had, you know, but I had to leave it behind. And I didn't even have anything else to do or anything to fall on. But I just trusted God that, you know, you can't be in this environment if you wanted to live this life. And
what did you study in school, though?
I studied human resource management.
Okay. You finished school?
I finished school,
okay.
Yeah.
Graduated?
I graduated.
Nice.
I could have gotten a first class easy.
But the ganja will spoil them.
It's spoil them. You know, and so I left the job behind, and then I just, you know, started struggling on my own. And by God's grace, I mean, He's been faithful.
What did you do? I mean, how did you keep body and soul together? Where were you living?
I went to some ghetto in Adabraka, some miserable.
But you know, that one will take you back, go the system is again.
Well, not a ghetto as in where people smoke, but like some compound house, just some regular place in Adabraka, you know, because that's what I could afford at the time.
You couldn't go home to mommy and daddy?
Well, my parents are in the Volta region,
okay,
and I didn't want to go to the Volta region yet. So I was in Accra, in Adabraka. You know, I found that spot. And I was just there, but, you know, I trusted God. Like, bro, trust me, I was just in line with what, you know, God had for me. And So what I started was I started using my skills in graphic design because I'd been doing graphic design since I was a kid. So I bought a laptop and then I started designing for people. People knew I could design. So Hermit, design this for me or do this for me.
That was your nickname?
Hermit, yeah, Hermit is my
You were
nickname.
you were on your own? Why are you called Hermit?
Oh, Hermes is just a nickname I picked in secondary school.
Okay.
It's not even about the meaning. It was just a nice
All right,
name.
you just picked it yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I was designing and gradually, I got into Newtown, found some press over there. I was working with them. So I print and that business just took off and, it's been sustaining me since. But beyond that, I've actually established other businesses since then.
So a bar where there's no alcohol.
Yes, eating bar.
Yeah. How's that going?
Yeah, it's been good. It's
going well?
Yeah, it's going well.
So you still have the printing business?
The printing,
You still
yeah,
do the printing?
I still have. I published this book myself. I
Nice.
printed everything myself.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
This is such a great story, but it hasn't ended well for other people like you. You say, I mean, you have friends who are either dead or behind bars. How do you want to help? Do you want to help them?
I do. I honestly
those
do.
who are alive.
And as part of my plans, I actually want to open a rehab one day because I have an approach to this whole thing that I believe a lot of people don't have. Some rehabs is just a prayer camp. They're just praying 24/7. Others, it's just medicinal. They give you so many drugs, and by the time you're out of the rehab, you're now addicted to, a different drug. So I believe God also put me through that experience so that I can also come out and help people. And as part of that is why I wrote this book, because I believe this book can really help people who are struggling with addiction. They can see themselves in it because the story is very relatable. It's raw. I didn't hide anything. I put it all out there. And luckily, I've actually been able to help a few friends. Actually, some of my friends from university, there's this guy that I used to smoke with. He's now saved. He's also clean. He's been clean for about 6 months. And he's doing great. So I've actually helped a few people, and I look to expand and help more.
So you used to have people from your past life pop up. I mean, the guys you used to smoke with, and even the women that you were with.
Oh yeah, quite often when I step out, I see a lot of them. And
What do they say, man?
it's just actually they're proud of me. Most of them are really proud of me because they've seen the growth. When I first left, people doubted it. Hermit, no way, because I was the life of the party. So they thought it was a midlife crisis or whatever.
At 20 something?
I wonder, but
Because you're 30 now, right?
I'm 30 now, yes.
Yes.
So they thought, I don't know, but they just felt it's not possible because, Charlie, how can you, today you are smoking, because it was abrupt. Today we are smoking together, tomorrow you tell us you don't smoke again, you don't drink anymore, but they've seen the growth, 6 years, and nothing has changed. I'm still on that path. I'm still, going strong. So most of them are proud of me. When they see me, they just tell me, they see everything I do, and they are glad. And that's fulfilling.
Nice. Is there a friend or family member that kind of stood by you all the time till now?
Yeah, a few of them. One of them actually is now in the Czech Republic. He's there schooling. But yeah, I had a few friends who stood by me through it all.
And I'm sure they're proud of you.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
John, so what do you want to tell, and it doesn't even have to be like a drug addiction, but if somebody is looking for their purpose, how do you embrace your purpose? How did you do it?
Looking back to the creator, the person who brought me here, I didn't come here by myself. And so if there's anything I had to do here, then I need to ask who brought me here. And that's part of the reason why I wrote about the Rollins inspiration in chapter 2. Because I believe most of the times when we are young, as kids, that's when we envision, our futures and what we want to become. And so in that chapter, I encourage people to look back to when they were probably 6 years old, 5 years old. What were some of the dreams they had, some of the things they wanted to do? Because as you grow through life, challenges and everything just makes you forget about them. But sometimes when you think back to them, you can, re-embrace your purpose. And that helped me a lot because when I was leaving that, when I was leaving that circle, and I thought of myself as a 6-year-old who wanted to become president, I always ask myself, would the president be sitting here smoking weed with his friends? Would the president be doing this at this time? Would the president even be dressed this way? And that changed my whole perception. That it changed my identity, and it helped me to be able to, be bold and march out. So I think you can reflect on your childhood dreams. Definitely, of course, like I mentioned earlier, ask God why you're here, and then just allow His purpose to be, just allow His will to be done. Not what you want, but just His will. And I'm sure if you follow these steps, you can make it.
Do you still want to be president?
I do.
Nice.
Especially with the way the country is going now. It's crazy. I really want to become president. Not like I must become president, but
it's an ambition.
It's an ambition that I have because I'm proud to be Black. I'm proud to be African, and unfortunately, I don't see our leaders to be as proud, as that. They don't do anything that shows that they're even patriotic about their nation. You're going to die whether you like it or not. Akufo-Addo, Mahama, Bawumia, everybody's going to die. There's no getting out. So why wouldn't you rather do something with your life that would leave a legacy 1,000 years from now? I don't get it.
Are you kind of ticked off that you have to wait to 40 before you make a run? Because in Ghana, you have to be 40 before you go for president.
I think
you
it's
still
fine.
have 10 years.
Yeah, it's fine because it would also give me the opportunity to build myself. The reason why I'm not even anxious about it now is because I really want to build myself. I really want to be able to, because as a president, you are the chief executive of the country. And so I want to be a chief executive of multiple companies that I can really turn around and bring to a certain level that I know if you give me the opportunity to serve Ghana, I can become a good chief executive. So by 40, I think it is completely fine.
The journey continues.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Shout out to anybody before I let you go.
Shout outs to, yesterday was Father's Day.
Yes.
So shout outs to my dad, Mr. Jacob Asogonnde. Shout out to my pastor, Dr. Mensa Otabel. Shout out to some of my mentors that have really helped me, Uncle Dani Mawenyegan,
I know him.
Bishop Eric Kwapong.
Yeah.
Yes, I thank them a lot for their love, their support, their encouragement. These men have really impacted a lot in my life, and I'm grateful to them.
Grateful for your time.
Thank you.
And all the best with the new ventures, the bar and the book.
Yeah.
And the run for the presidency. I go vote for you.
Amen. Thank you so much.
John Asogonnde, author of Unchained, Embracing Purpose Beyond Addiction. And it's been a wonderful conversation. I'm going to throw it now to Valerie, who has something interesting under her green sleeves for you.
This is the live from GBC Studio One.